Welcome to MMAPlay365, I'm Newsome, and I'm here to give a Base AI recap from our UFC prediction software from last weekend's event at UFC Paris from the AI perspective, telling you where there was value to be found, how to find that value, add some educational pieces in along with that recap as well. So we're going to start with the co-main event for this recap, and we're going to start with Manon Fiorot versus Rose Namajunas. Now, Base AI had Manon Fiorot to win at 67%, so relatively confident, and at 67% the odds implied is minus 203. So Base AI was saying that when you go to the bookies, Manon Fiorot should be a minus 203 favourite. Now, Fiorot did close at around minus 200, but she was sitting minus 175, minus 180, minus 185 for the majority of fight week. So you could have got value on that Fiorot money line if Fiorot was the fighter that you decided to lean towards and the fighter that you wanted to bet. And if you're using Base AI is saying that she should be minus 203. So if you're getting minus 175, there's definite value there and definite value in regards to being able to place a bet knowing that you're getting a good betting line. Now, when we go one step further, we're looking at the methods of victory here for this fight. Now, Fiorot to win by knockout and Fiorot to win by decision was actually the exact same percentage. So what Base AI was saying is, look, it's likely not going to be a submission. Either Fiorot's going to knock her out or she's going to take a decision. And Base AI just couldn't figure out or couldn't calculate which one had the edge. Both were as likely as each other. So of course the fight did go to a decision, so one half of that was correct. Now Fiorot decision was 33%. So Base AI said that for Fiorot to win a decision, it should be 33%, and the odds implied on 33% is plus 203. Now at plus 203, you go to the bookies, you look at Fiorot to win by decision, and you're getting plus 125. So there's absolutely no value there. So right now, if you're looking between, I know it's easier with the 2020 hindsight vision, but right now when you're looking at whether to bet Fiorot moneyline or Fiorot decision, then the money line is absolutely the right bet because there's value there. There's no value on the decision. Now, the other thing, and I did mention this for the first time in the last recap episode, is in the UK, there are markets that by most books in the UK, they're called double chance, but it could be listed as something different wherever if you're tuning in here, wherever you're located around the world, it could be marketed something different. But here in the UK, most books call it double chance. So Fiorot to win by KO, TKO or decision, Base AI actually had it 65%. Now at 65%, the odds implied is minus 186. I can't find any historic line in the UK or through fightodds.io or best fight odds that indicate that there was a bookie with this market and it was X price. So I don't know if there'd be any value on it, but the reason why I brought it up again is because, look, if you didn't want to take the Fiorot money line and you couldn't decide about the knockout or decision, then there was an option. There is options there to be able to have a look around at the books and see if they do have a double chance market or something similar where you can bet on either TKO or decision, and the only way you'd lose the bet is if Fiorot lost or is if Fiorot won by submission, and you're probably going to get a better betting line than the money line. So that's definitely an option there as well, because at 65%, there's only 2% difference between the double chance knockout or decision against the money line. So it was definitely an option should your bookie have that sort of market available for you to bet. Now, the next fight that we're going to talk about is the one that I think a lot of people were talking about, Benoit Denis versus Thiago Moises. Now, we actually gave Benoit Denis out as a free prediction because the Twitter poll, or X as it's now called, the X poll, shall we say, actually chose the Benoit Denis fight for us at MMAPlay365 to give that fight away for free. Again, we always give a choice of 4 fights. That was the fight that won. Now, Benoit Denis, Base AI had it 62%. Now, at 62%, the odds implied there is minus 163. So Base AI is saying that Denis should be a moderate favourite in this fight. Now, Denis was actually a moderate favourite in this fight. He was around anywhere from that minus 160 to minus 200 where he closed. But that was at the end of fight week. At the beginning of fight week, Benoit Denis was actually a plus 100 underdog. But all that money kept on coming in on him consistently throughout fight week. So it went from that plus 100 to minus 105, minus 110, minus 120, minus 130, minus 140, minus 150, and so on. So at minus 163, you could have, with the odds implied, you could have actually got value on Benoit Saint-Denis up until the point where the line had just completely gone to where there was no value. So you could have found value with Base AI at some point throughout fight week. Now, when we go one step further, the submission, I think, was around 40% for Benoit Saint-Denis. So the submission method of victory didn't actually come in because, of course, Saint-Denis won via KO TKO. But the submission was always a little bit of a sketchy one in my eyes. I was surprised it was that high, not because Saint-Denis' grappling isn't good, because it's legit. It's just Thiago Moises is also a very legit BJJ black belt, a real BJJ black belt. So, like I said, it wasn't a knock on Saint-Denis' qualities. It was more of, look, if he taps Thiago Moises, then wow, like that is insane. Like that would be an insane finish. So I actually thought that if Saint-Denis was going to finish this fight, it probably was more likely going to be a knockout or TKO. So with that in mind, if you also had the same thoughts, you could have just looked at inside the distance. If you're not sure about the submission, because obviously Moises is legit with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, then just take inside the distance, add the KO TKO together, that get with the submission percentages, that gives you any type of finish. And inside the distance, Base AI had at 52%. Now at 52%, the odds implied is minus 108. And if you go to the bookies, or if you went to the bookies with that minus 108 odds implied, you're getting plus 110 to plus 145, depending on when and where you bet. So look, this is really simple. If you wanted Benoit Saint-Denis to win outright and take his money line, that's fine. But if the line's gone, look at inside the distance and you'd have got some value there as well. And both would have been winning betting tickets at the bookies. So yeah, a good prediction from Base AI. And again, we gave that free out on the MMAPlay365 website as well. And the next fight to talk about, we've got Taylor Lapilus versus Caolan Loughran. And Base AI was relatively confident in Lapilus winning. It had Lapilus to win at 58%, and at 58% the odds implied was minus 138. So Base AI was saying that Lapilus should have been anywhere from a slight to moderate favourite, and Lapilus actually hit around minus 135 at one point, so there was some very, very slight value. But the longer that we went into fight week, well, bear in mind the fight didn't even get made until halfway through the week, but the closer we got to fight night, shall we say, it ended up closing at around minus 175, so there was no value. Any value was on that real dip on Lapilus, but once the line started climbing back out again, the value was lost at that point. But again, Base AI, a correct prediction in the 58% that did provide some value at some time during the fight week. Now, we go one step further. Base AI, I love it when it does this, because Lapilus is a very good kickboxer. He's got power, but he's also got a good submission game as well. And it would be very easy for Base AI to just give one of those finishers a knockout or a submission as the highest percentage. But actually, Base AI favoured the decision, and I love this. So the decision for Lapilus to win, Base AI had at 28%. Now at 28%, the odds implied is plus 257. So it is a big, odds implied betting number. And if you go to the bookies, you'd have only got around plus 120 for Lapilus to win by decision. So there was no value there. So if you missed that very small window of opportunity with Lapilus' money line, the fight would have been a pass altogether. But I just really like how Base AI was confident in Lapilus winning, because personally I bet Caolan Loughran, I thought it was going to be a nightmare for Lapilus. Didn't end up like that. So Base AI did a good job with the Lapilus outright prediction, but then picking the decision and that coming in as well. Yeah, really, really good, solid prediction from Base AI. And the final fight that we're going to mention is Farid Basharat versus Kleydson Rodrigues. Now, Base AI had Basharat to win at 61%. The odds implied at 61% is minus 156. Basharat opened at around minus 185, closed at around minus 400. So there was no actual value here. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because not only was it a solid prediction, but it's also one of these fights that should just make you stay away from betting the fight, especially when you're looking at Basharat at minus 350, minus 400. Like, how much value really is there at that high price in a fight against Kleydson Rodrigues, who is not a bad fighter? Sure, he got overwhelmed and did get finished relatively comfortably, but Rodrigues isn't like some bum or some can that's just going to get run over by every fighter in the UFC. So he's got some quality about him. So in my opinion, this is a perfect fight to say, look, if you're looking at the predictions, Basharat 61%, but he's minus 350, minus 400 on the betting line. Thank you, Base AI. This is one that I just stay away from and move on to another fight where there's value. So that's the reason why I've mentioned it. It is a correct prediction, but it's also it's a really good educational lesson to understand when to pass on a fight. Doesn't matter if you love the fighter, if he's your favourite fighter and you want to bet on him at all costs. No, like it doesn't work like that. Use maths. Use the percentages, use implied probability, and when there's no value, just sit back and enjoy the fight because you're an MMA fan, UFC fan regardless anyway. So yeah, good prediction from Base AI and a really good educational point of topic as well. And that's all for this Base AI recap. We'll be back again next week, of course, recapping UFC 293. I'm Newsome, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.